With the deliberations, I'm joined in studio by Stephen Mwakesi, Sakwa Bunyasi, and Martins Owino. Martins, I know being a politician, perhaps you're well versed with interacting with voters on the ground. Is it usually an expectation of the, of the politician to hand something at the end of the day? Because right now we're focusing on the people who are orchestrating this politics of handouts, but perhaps it's an expectation in terms of the psyche of the masses. You come, sell your agenda, but at the end of the day, you're disrupting our activities. Give us something at least. It's an unfortunate culture. Is it deeply enrooted within the society?
Very unfortunate, but today I'm on my friend Stephen Mackenzie. Get out from Rogers. Handouts have never developed any country, and if it is being permitted by the high stature of Ruto, I think that is pathetic. Wherever he has been, this has caused chaos. Be it Kisumu, Migori, because when you leave some money for some people, some run away with it. There's no order of distributing it, and they fight over it. Some are injured, they don't get anything. If only we can get out of that and talk of what programs we are going to put in place for the people. For example, in my constituency in Dewa, I've distributed so much money through Youth Enterprise Fund, women, and all this. If Ruto was serious about what he's saying, he could donate that money to the government to do it. But that said, money are used in different ways in campaigns. For example, logistics. That takes money. That's okay. But I really condemn the culture of giving people money to buy. That's corruption, that's bribery, and that should be stopped at all odds. And that is what is doing. Now, there's another narrative, which is when other people give money like that, it's as if they are finishing with you, and when they get into the office, they would say, I had already paid you, I owe you nothing. That's why handouts are enslaving. We need to have hands-up programs even when we campaign so that people can expect something after the campaign.
Okay, Mwakesi, you're on the receiving end this time round. I know you haven't drawn any clear party lines, but a chance of reply.
Well, I'll just say this. I mean, we need to also separate the issue of handouts for pure political purposes and voter bribery. This is not the case, and this is what I'm trying to say. Essentially, when you're at a marketplace, and William Ruto has been very consistent in this, that I am giving this money to the border Sacco. These Saccos need money. We've come from a very difficult point, and with the Washemiwa is here. No, most of these groups, women groups, the market women groups, have been requesting money from their leaders for purposes of boosting their welfare groups, their table banking activities, and things like that. So when William Ruto comes and he says, I'm meeting with you, I'm discussing with you my agenda, I'm selling to you my points, and I'm selling you the future that I intend to have, and at the end of it all, why don't I also support your group so that when you go back home, you can be able to see which project you can be able to invest in, or how you circulate this money amongst yourself and better boost your businesses. I don't see anything wrong with that, and it doesn't contravene any existing law. And if the benevolence means that in the end some people get to benefit, well and good. My view is that going forward, we need to start as a country dealing with the issues that are affecting Kenyans now. Let's not keep on talking of things to do in the next 5 years, in the next 8 months when I'm elected. There are things that if you are a leader and you're genuine about your people, you can solve some problems as we speak right now. So if William Ruto says, I'm going into an area and I see there is a need, there are some people who are asking for wheelbarrows, others are asking for God knows what, I will support them because that's what they need right now. And then we can have a conversation come August 8th. August 8th, at the private booth, if they decide that their vote is going with Raila Odinga, regardless of what William Ruto did to them in December of 2021, that is their choice. Okay. There is no gun being held to the Kenyans' head to vote for him just because he gave them 50 shillings. All that he's saying is that I recognize you, I see that you're hustling, I see you're trying to make it through the day. Here is what I can give to you. But come August 8th, give the vote to William Samoei Ruto, and some of them will give to Raila Odinga. It depends with where it goes.
And it's clear the voter has the final say, so perhaps let's take a look at what each and every candidate is putting on the table in terms of the ideologies going forward. Gentlemen, let's shift focus kidogo too and talk about money matters, that particular draft budget policy statement where Kenyans have until the 21st of November to perhaps submit their comments on some of the projections right there. It's a 3.3 trillion budget for the 2022-2023 financial year, and according to the CS Treasury, key focus is on the Big Four agenda, post-COVID-19 economic recovery strategy, and the strategic policy initiatives of the government to accelerate growth and employment and create job opportunities while reducing poverty in the country. Sako, I'd like to start with you as we finalize this discussion, your reaction to the bigger budget so far. And perhaps the big question would be, will this likely trigger an aggressive pursuit of tax cheats in order to finance this budget, or, you know, God forbid, a possible increase in taxes while Kenyans are reeling from already higher taxes? What's your take?
Rogers, next week when you pose that question, I'll be in a much better position because I've not had a chance to study the document. But in a generic way, our tax collection, our tax target last year was about 1.779 in terms of ordinary revenue that we expect, and our budget is 3.6. Obviously, a huge gap there. I do not believe that with this COVID era that the actual. By the way, we did not realize that. I think we are about 1.4 trillion. My numbers could be off by a little bit. I do not think that we can expect a dramatic increase in a year in which we are going to disrupt economic activities with election campaigns and incur heavy election costs and so on. The opportunity costs are high. I doubt that we shall achieve much greater revenue targets, which would mean that our own money that we put forward for development will be much less than the size of the budget, implying another deficit yet again that will add to the debt burden that is already quite high, very high indeed. So 3.3 may still be unrealistic. I think the challenge we have is how to cut back expenditure. They are cutting back nominally by 300 billion. How to cut back expenditure significantly as you raise revenue so that the gap is reduced. There may always be some gap, but the gap is reduced. I doubt that that's going to be an easy budget to finance. So we should then brace for tax increases. It will take a while in the coming year to fund the elections and then go through recovery again before the end of the year. So I foresee a significant increase in the amount of accumulation to debt in terms of outcome, as well as a challenge in raising revenue. What will happen is the going in position, I'm sure, will be assumed to be small, as they always do, meaning that the difference between how much we shall collect in taxes and how much we shall spend, will only be 300 billion or 400 billion. And then it turns out to be at least twice that. That's the kind of problems that we have. Okay. But I'll be in a much more robust position to discuss specifics when we sit next week.
No problem. Perhaps, Martins, in case you've gone through the BPS, well, what's your take on that? And does it put more pressure on the next administration, whichever it is, in terms of financing that 3.3 trillion shilling budget?
It is, Rogers, because most of these monies will be going for debt servicing, almost over 70%. That leaves you with very little to do what you have to do. So the next government actually will inherit shell of economy. But that said, there was a report also in another quarter which was saying that we are losing 65 billion in tax abuse by corporates. I would go for sealing all the tax loopholes in this country, and that will broaden the base of taxation, which we always talk about. But I think we have to be realistic. Living beyond your means is the worst thing. It's like biting what you can't chew in. We have to cut our expenditures, and I'm happy that policy is coming. That is where we are going to really have a big debate. How do we finance what you are proposing when your income is about 23%, and the rest are going to taxes? Lastly, I would also like all these big infrastructure programs, their own loans, and everybody globally knows that we have been going through rough time because of COVID. This should be renegotiated, whether it is time be expanded for the payment of that loan,
Okay.
or be given a break period so that we can recover from our economy. But we cannot just continue with things as usual.
Well, let's see what parliamentarians will have to say about that later on during the due process. Mwakesi, your final take.
Again, Jesse, I'll side with what Sakwa Bunyasi said. We don't have visibility of what the budget policy statement looks like. But my view would be, if those are the numbers being touted, then let us be looking at a big spend when it comes to development expenditure, because that's the only way you reinvigorate this economy. Presently, if we're not able to put more people into government-sponsored program works, then we will not be able to show up the losses that we have incurred by virtue of the slowdown coming out of COVID. So it's important that we become very particular on what the expenditures will mean. I'm excited to hear that there will be a very important expenditure by government on rebuilding and refurbishing our primary schools and secondary school infrastructure. Programs such as this, and if they are extremely well localized and targeted at ensuring that at the very lowest level of contracting is done so that the Kenyans themselves get the benefit of this government expenditure, then that will be it. Secondly, I'm also very excited when I see the IMF and the World Bank really putting a squeeze on Kenya in terms of the recurrent expenditure and actually urging the government to streamline some of these loss-making institutions. We're seeing universities like UON and whatnot in the headlines having serious deficits in their budgets and having gone into losses. And so it's important that we restructure these entities going into this particular budget. And for me, I'm also hoping that much of this allocation will also go to the IEBC. It will be a travesty to see that we are going to a 3.3 trillion budget and we have not funded the institution that is most critical at this particular juncture in time. So I'm really hoping money goes into the IEBC to enable us to really do a credible job when it comes to these particular elections. And finally, let's make sure that wherever we can be able to help our people in terms of these vulnerable households, let's put money into those programs, especially for the old and the vulnerable in our society. It's important. Let's also do Kazi Mtaani. I would like to see that budget also doing the third phase of Kazi Mtaani, because it's an important tool to enable the young people in this country to have some money in their pockets. So let's hope that that particular budget is people-centric. It's about getting people into work, into jobs, into giving them money in their pockets. If that's the kind of budget we're talking about, 3.3, then we can be able to discuss things that are feasible, and it will help our people. I'm just shocked that Uhuru Kenyatta is going out with such a huge bang. He's living with one of the biggest budgets in history of this country. So I think it's a good way to call it quits. So let's see how it will be executed going forward.
Okay, let's see. I think they usually say you leave when the applause is the loudest. So allow me to let you leave, guys, as our viewers applaud, perhaps with a good input. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your observations in terms of the various developments that are happening in the country. Stephen Mwakesi, public policy analyst; Martins Owino, Member of Parliament, Thiwa constituency; Sakwa Bunyasi, Member of Parliament, Nambale constituency. Always a pleasure to have you with us. All the best in your day's activities. Allow us to take a short break right now on Morning Express. We've definitely finalized in terms of some of the stories you can expect in today's dailies, what exactly is happening. And I'm just being informed, perhaps instead of taking that short break, let's take a look at a different story in terms of what is happening in the corridors of justice in relation to the late Tirop, that particular athlete, where Ibrahim Rotich, the accused person in the murder of slain Olympian Agnes Tirop, has pleaded not guilty just yesterday to murder charges before the Eldoret High Court Judge Ruben Nyakundi. Rotich, who remains the only suspect in the murder of the late, denied committing the crime on October 12th in Iten, Elgeyo Marakwet County. And as Elvis Koskei reports, Rotich pleaded not guilty after the mental assessment report from the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital showed that he was fit to stand trial.
Appearing before Justice Ruben Nyakundi, Rotich, aged 41, pleaded not guilty after the mental assessment report from the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital showed that he was fit to stand trial. According to the particulars of the charge, Rotich is said to have allegedly murdered Agnes Jebet Tirop on October 12th at rural estate Iten Township in the county of Elgeyo Marakwet.
Ya Elgeyo Marakwet, wewe ulimuua Agnes Chebet Tirop. Unaweza kusema namna gani kwa maelezo?
Jocelyn Mitei was holding brief for Rotich lawyer Ngigi Mbugua told the court that the defense was working on filing an application for release on bond or bail. However, the prosecution team led by David Feather told the court that they had already filed an affidavit on November 9th opposing Rotich's release on bond. Justice Nyakundi directed that the defense files a reply to the affidavit already filed by the prosecution, while a pre-bail report is worked on in the next 14 days.
Wameleta complaint kwako, pia wachumulisha pamoja wakati tutasikisha application ambao tumeweka ni tarehe 1 mwezi wa 12.
The case will come up on December 1st to determine whether the accused will be released on bail or not. Elvis Kosgei, KTN News, Uasin Gishu County.
Okay, so that's the latest in terms of the corridors of justice. We'll definitely keep you updated on how that court case unfolds. Even as we take a short break right now on Morning Express, allow me to hint on what we'll be back with, a discussion based on your health. And it's all to do with a summit that is scheduled to happen in Rwanda between the 18th and the 20th of this particular month. The Water Aid East Africa will virtually from Kigali engage on hygiene for health basics on the Rwanda Global Healthcare Summit right there. Our guest is set to join us via way of Zoom virtually. She's already on, as you can see on your screen. Annie Msosa is the advocacy advisor at Health Water Aid. We're set to have a conversation on perhaps what exactly Water Aid focuses on and the impact of that particular summit that is set to happen later on this particular week. Stay with us. You're watching Morning Express. Much more on the other side of the break.